There's a value in networking.
I like in-person dealing more now with the shows.
There was a lot of foul activity going on, and no one's talking about it.
I feel like I see less patience in the hobby today. And I want to get your thoughts on that. When you hear of the large dollar amounts now around PMG, what do you think?
What it takes for someone to spend that much money on any card.
Fanatics did something tonight I had never heard about. They have a lottery.
We got you on the line.
You guys, oh my goodness, we're both on the line.
Yes, hey, you got to let the people know who you're rolling with, man.
Well, obviously I'm rolling with FD.
What's up, everybody? I'm happy to have everybody here. 6:30 on a Monday. And we have a great guest here that I've been wanting to talk to for quite a while now. We have Jeremy Lee from Sports Cards Live. What's up, Jeremy?
Hey, what's going on, FD? Good to be here.
How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm used to being on the other side. I'm not usually on this side of the screen, yes. So it's nice to be here with you.
Oh yeah, I'm thankful that you're here. I appreciate your time. I'm going to jump into some questions here, and there's some things that I want to learn about you, and that'll be some of our first questions here. How did you get started in the hobby? Walk us through that. Like, what were your influences? Tell us the story.
Yeah, I mean, I think like my earliest hobby memories are way back in like 1979, 1980. Just, hanging out with some of my cousins, and they were a little bit older than me, and they had cards, hockey cards. I'm up in Canada. And I just remember seeing these cards kind of strewn all over my cousin's bedroom floor and picking them up and being like, oh, these are cool. There's pictures of these players that I used to go to games and see with my dad when I was young. And so that was really what set it off. And going to grade school just with other kids in my grade and at school at recess, trading cards, trying to complete your sets and all that. And I collected all the sets, all the Hockey O-Pee-Chee sets all the way through the 80s. And that's kind of my origin. Okay.
So when you started out collecting, where did you purchase your cards?
Where?
Yeah, like what stores? Was it retail? Yeah. Was it hobby? What was going on?
I mean, we're talking about the early 80s here, FD. So I grew up in Winnipeg, Manitoba, which is just north of North Dakota. And I used to go to a store called Niagara Drugs. It was like a corner shop, it was a pharmacy, but they had candy and hockey cards and baseball cards and basketball cards and all that too. And then a couple years later, as I got, into grade 4, grade 5, I used to go to an LCS. It was called Abdi Cards in downtown Winnipeg. And I used to go there with my buddy on this every Saturday. And it was in the back of a comic store. It was a little corner nestled in the back of a comic store. And we used to go hang out there for the day and on Saturday. So that's where I was buying them. And it continued to be at LCSs throughout those pre-internet years.
I tell people all the time that beginning, like I went to 7-Elevens, something similar, right? Yeah. Some retail stores that nowadays you wouldn't even think about going to really buy some cards. And that's where everything was.
Yeah. Yeah. We used to go to the 7-Elevens too. They used to carry the cards too. Yeah, definitely.
It's kind of interesting. That's how things started back in our day.
Well, because that's what it was, right? They were selling bubble gum and they added the cards as a premium. Now the cards are the product.
That's right. So what do you have in your PC? Like what kind of cards do you collect for those who may not know? And what are some wins you think in your PC?
Well, I started in the 80s collecting the complete sets every year. And in 1991, I opened up an LCS. And at that time, going into it, I had 2 complete sets of every year of hockey cards from like 1979, maybe even 78 up until 1990 or so. So what I did is my buy-in to the store was my collection. So one complete set went on the shelf, and then my second complete set, I kept all the rookies, and the commons went to the store to help other people fill out their sets. So that kind of laid a new foundation for my collection, which was rookie cards. And I really started collecting Hall of Fame rookies. I did hockey, baseball, basketball, football, tried to get, most Hall of Famers all the way going all the way back to 1910. I never got a Honus Wagner or a Christy Mathewson. I'd never owned a Ty Cobb, but I've owned a lot of others. And so I do Hall of Fame rookie cards. That's a big piece of my PC. I also have a couple players that I collect. Again, being a hockey guy from Winnipeg originally, I collect Dale Hawerchuk. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. He's a Hall of Famer, and he was the best player that the Winnipeg Jets ever had. And Teemu Selanne, who's my all-time favorite professional athlete. I collect a few other players: Jeremy Roenick, Ron Francis, some Shane Doan, a little bit of Mark Scheifele. Collects Shaquille O'Neal, Michael Jordan, Ken Griffey Jr. Okay. And so my PC, in addition to the Hall of Fame rookie cards, are 90s inserts, and then I collect various sets that came out through in the mid 2000s to present, usually like insert or parallel sets from various hockey card sets. And then I really love the rare inserts, precious metal gems, essential credentials, jambalayas, intimidation nations, hot shots, all these awesome sets that were born in the mid to late 90s that Upper Deck recreated in the 2010s in hockey. And I collect a lot of those too.
So when in the last several months, we've heard things from Fanatics about activity in the market, some things that they want to do, goals that they have. What are your thoughts on when you hear about Fanatics in the next 5 to 10 years, and where do you see the market going?
That's the big question of the past few months for all.
Huge question, right?
Yeah, I ask everyone that same question, FD. A couple of things. First of all, they're putting a lot of resources into these licenses that they've acquired. They've partnered up with the leagues and the PAs. It tells me that there's going to be a lot of firepower behind the hobby, a lot of marketing power, a lot of resources, a lot of infrastructure, resources going towards infrastructure. So I think that's a good thing. I forget who said it. It might have been Josh Luber said that I think, last year, 1 million people bought a sports card. Maybe it was... That
was Luber. Yep.
Yeah, whatever the number, 1 million, 2, 3 million, I forget what it was, but it was something like that. And then he went on to say that, Fanatics has a mailing list or a customer database of 800 million, or sorry, maybe 80 million, whatever it was. These numbers are so far apart that there's a lot of potential there for the hobby to grow with more collectors. I've always said that anybody who goes to a game, goes to a professional game, anybody who buys a jersey or buys a baseball cap to wear to a game, whether it's any sport, doesn't matter. That's a potential customer. That's a potential collector, a potential hobbyist. So the fact that Fanatics has all of their email addresses tells me that they're going to be able to reach out to these people, do some target marketing, and hopefully grow the hobby that way. As for, them purchasing tops, to me, it was like, I didn't predict it, but when it happened, I was like, of course they bought tops.
Yeah, I wasn't shocked. Wasn't shocked at all. No.
Makes all the sense in the world, right? And if you're comparing who do they buy, Tops or Panini, it's Tops all day long. Tops is Americana. Tops is baseball. So that made a lot of sense to me. And then they came out with the Zero Cool brand, which is just a separate sort of subsidiary. And they obviously did the V-Friends cards, and they've done now the, what's it called? V-Friends, and then they followed up with Jackass, the Jackass cards.
Jackass cards.
Yeah. So, I think it's nice. I think it's cool that they're exploring outside of sports, and they're looking to, I guess, just experiment a little bit with what may or may not work, and try and access and reach some other, demographics of collectors in these specific niches. So, I'm not going to sit here and judge what they're doing so far as wrong or bad or a mistake, because they're gonna learn as they go, and they're gonna correct as they go too, because they need to preserve the brands and the capital that they've raised, and make sure that they can move forward, hopefully in a way that serves the hobby the way it needs to be served.
I know I have a small sample size, but I've talked to some people who do not collect anything sports related at all, and they're interested in some stuff like Jackass and what V-Friends has offered. Now, I know also I've talked to some collectors who I can't believe they came with that. But my personal thought is that these cards are not for people who have traditionally purchased sports cards. And like you talked about, they're trying to open the market up to more people interested in something that's in the same dimensions as what we all have known and loved for years. I see it as a good move.
No, I think you're right. And after they released VFriends and the Instagram hobby Instagram and hobby Twitter,
Yeah.
they attacked and they hated it with a passion, with a virility that we've never maybe even seen before, unless it's being aimed at fraudsters. And my take on it was, who cares? They're not targeting us. They're not us being sports card collectors. It's a different product for a different demographic. So why are we taking so much offense to what a subsidiary of Fanatics Trading Cards is putting out there? Like, who cares? Let them do that. It should have no impact on us. But the hobby, we are so protective of our hobby.
We're passionate,
that,
right? Yeah.
right? Passionate and protective, which is great. To the point where we sometimes get a little bit illogical and start going after things that aren't really even, aimed at us. So I don't think that what Fanatics did with Zero Cool has any bearing on what they're gonna, except maybe the method of sale. I don't think it's in terms of the Dutch auctions, but I don't think that the fact that they did VFriends and Jackass is gonna have any impact on how they treat sports cards.
I agree. So we got Albert Jones here just saying hello to both of us. AFD
Hi,
and
Albert.
Jerry. Hey, what's up, Albert? Demetrius Hughes. What's up, Demetrius? Doing homework but still rolling. Thank you for being here. Trevor, good evening, gentlemen. Thank you, sir. And Sin City. I was just on your live for the cards that you got back and your PSA reveal. Great cards, man. I just want you to know that. Splendid cards. What? Tell me a little bit more. Now, I was on your Instagram, right? And you drove to get a card. I don't know if have you revealed this card?
Yeah, I did. I did, yeah.
What is the card? I'm interested.
The card here, I'll pull up a picture here quick on my phone because I should have, or on my Instagram even. But the card, it's this card here. It's a dual on-card autograph, game-used memorabilia of Sidney Crosby and Connor McDavid.
Wow.
It's from the Cup, and it's out of 5. So that's the card that I purchased. To me, this card really represents the two best players of, from 2005 to 2025, even though I know we're not there yet. Sidney Crosby's been in the league since 2005, and I think tonight he's got at least 3 points as the Penguins are up 3-1 now on the Rangers in this first series of the playoffs. So he's still a producer. He's still an impact player. And Connor McDavid has been the best player in the world since he entered the league in 2015-16, the 15-16 season. And Crosby doesn't sign cards with other players as a rule. He's made a couple exceptions, one for Mario Lemieux, who was his mentor. And, he kind of took the torch from Mario Lemieux, and now Connor McDavid. And there's only ever been 20 total cards with both of their autographs on them, and only one with memorabilia, and that's the one. And there's only 5 of them. So when it was when a fellow Instagram collector put it on his page, I saw it and I said, "Hey, bring that to Edmonton if it's available," which was back in the middle of March, and he did. And we didn't strike a deal, but we did just back on Saturday, I guess it was. We got the deal done. I met him at the bank to give him the cash so he could deposit it straight into his bank account. And it's a pretty important card as far as I'm concerned.
That's a wonderful card. So for everyone out there that's watching that wants to make deals like that, aspires to, or has in the past, kind of walk through at a high level what process you went through to find that card, do research on it, understand everything about it, the history of who signs what. Just walk through that a little bit.
Okay, sure. So I saw the card and I didn't even I forgot that the card existed. I did remember later seeing one on eBay maybe a year ago or so, but it had damage around the patch window. So I shied away from it. So it's really, ones without damage are really out of 4. And again, the gentleman put it on his Instagram. He brought it to the show in Edmonton to show me. I saw it. He had a cash price or cash and trade. And I was just too busy at the show to really get into a negotiation with him and work on the trade part. So after the show, we actually did a video call together. I showed him some of my traders, and nothing really made him say wow that he wanted for the card. And I ended up saying to him, "Listen, how much just cash?" And honestly, FD, I prefer just doing cash deals, even as a purchaser, because I find cash trade deals, they take a long time to work out, and you have to really get comfortable with the cash value versus the trade value on the cards you're trading away. So I said, how much cash? And he came down like 5%. And after me trying to grind him for a little bit more, and I was unable to, he was very firm, but he had me right where he wanted me, because I wanted this card really badly. And I agreed. I said, I'll take it. So right before I said I'll take it, I did some more research. So I called up about 3 different people who I know and trust their opinions on values.
Yes.
And I got their opinion on what this card was worth. And the 2 guys in particular both said less than what I ended up paying. But I know that to get a great card these days, you have to overpay.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that I overpaid, I guess, did I overpay? I actually set the value, right? What I paid is now the comp. So I set the new value for the card, and I've been willing to do that in my history in the hobby, is break a record to acquire a great card. It's never served me wrong doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So I called up the couple buddies. We talked about it. I also saw on his Instagram page when he first showed the card, he said he thanked the person he bought it from. It just so happened that person was a friend of mine too. So I reached out to him. Let's call him Dave. I reached out to Dave and I asked him about the card. Where did he get it? How long did he own it for? Are you willing to tell me what you sold it to this guy for? All these different things. And so I had a bit, and also, what do you know about the card and other cards like it? And so he filled me in on all that. And he said, to my knowledge, there's only ever been 3 cards that have both their autographs. And I said, well, I want to confirm that. So I phoned up my friend Billy, who works at Upper Deck, who's a brand manager, who I have a good relationship with. And I said, so listen, I'm looking at acquiring this card. Here's what it is. Tell me what you can about it. How many times have Crosby and McDavid signed the same card? And how many of them have memorabilia? And what are the cards, et cetera, et cetera? So he got back to me and he let me know that there were, again, only 3 cards. 2 of them are out of 5, one's out of 10. This is the only one with memorabilia. And then the key question I asked was, are you guys going to make more of these? Which of course he wouldn't answer and couldn't tell me.
Yeah.
But I do know that Sidney Crosby's autograph is very expensive for Upper Deck, as is Connor McDavid. So the more that they put them on a card together, the fewer case hits they're going to have down the road. So I kind of crossed my fingers, took a leap of faith, and overpaid by what I consider to be about 15 or 20% on the card at the time, because I'm hoping that they're not going to put out many more combos of these 2 guys. But even if they do, FD, this is the first one, and it's the first dual auto mem of these guys. It's out of 5. Like, the more I think about it, the more
rare card. It's a rare card.
Yeah.
You know what I love about your story? That's why I asked you this question, is because I've been in conversations with people about just the power of building relationships. Everything that you just walked through about this story is you tapping back into the relationships that you have with different people over time to get some information about the card, and then to use that information in your negotiation or understanding of the market itself for that particular card. Like that's a great story, man.
Yeah, but you're right. It's about, like, the hobby is all about the relationships, right? Some people say the hobby is about the people. Some people say the hobby is about the cards. For me, sometimes you can be on social media and just get so kind of fed up with all the negativity sometimes. And when that happens to me, and I get kind of just like annoyed by all the negativity, I can go to my cards and they'll make me happy again, because they're my cards, they're my babies. I mean, it's my passion. So, but some of the people, especially who prove to be good friends year after year, are the best resources, and they're going to give you their honest opinion. And I get asked regularly for my thoughts on the value of cards, and it's nice to have people to go to as well for myself and say, what do you think this thing's worth? What would you pay for it? What do you know, etc. And that can be invaluable, even if at the end of the day you still make the decision to pay more than what they told you they think it's worth. At least you had an idea.
Mm-hmm. Albert Jones says, love that card. I'm hoping to find the other ones and try to get one myself. But just like we talked about, the networking part of it. But I always say this to people, right? If you went to a card show and there was just cards sitting on tables, would you enjoy that?
What? So if I would,
If you went to a card show and there was just cards on tables and no people around, would that be enjoyable?
Yeah, it would. I mean, if I were to just walk into a museum of cards, I've done that. There is the Sports Museum of Los Angeles, which is a private. I mean, that's where you are. You might know about this private collection. I got to go there, and I could have stayed there for a week. So yeah, I would enjoy it, but FD, you put the people in there, and
That's right.
Come on. I mean, it takes to a whole other level.
It amps everything up, the conversations, the networking, the camaraderie about a card. You show that card that you just showed us, somebody else has something in their collection, and no matter what the level is, that they're passionate about as well, and they're going to talk to you about it.
Yeah, man, it's like the difference between listening to music in your car and then going to a concert and standing on the floor amongst everyone else rocking out, you know?
That's right. So if someone was new to the hobby, I ask this question to people, and I really respect you, so I want to get your opinion. What advice would you give them before they make a purchase, before they start thinking about investing, collecting, flipping, anything, whatever they call themselves, whatever they consider themselves to be? What would Jeremy Lee say to them?
I think my biggest piece of advice is don't crack wax. Find what you like and buy singles, because I mean, listen, cracking wax is fun, it's exciting, it's a gamble, but it's usually a losing proposition. And if you want to get into the hobby, you want to stay in the hobby. Yes. And I tell, listen, I've got friends outside of the hobby who have gotten more and more into cards, and they all come to me and they ask that exact advice. And that's sometimes it's after they've gone and spent a couple $1,000 opening packs and they have nothing that they care about to show for it. I say, there are so many products out there over so many years. Spend some time, look around, go to the local card shop, go on eBay, go on ComC, see what's out there. Find, kind of hone in on the designs that you like. Do you like autographs? Do you like auto patches? Do you like jersey cards, players, vintage, modern, ultra modern? Pick what you like and buy the singles, because you know what you're getting that way. You're like, do people ever buy comic books not knowing what comic they're getting? I've never heard of that. No. You used to go buy a CD or an album or a cassette. You knew what you were buying. There was none of this surprise element. That's what the hobby is, though. I get it. It's the foundation of the hobby is opening packs. I mean, wax packs from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s even. It's a lot of fun. But my advice is get familiar with the products, the sport, whatever it is you like, and just, I call it sharpshooting. Go be a sharpshooter and find the singles that you want. That would be my first piece of advice. I do want to say, though, FD, there's something to be said for people learning that lesson on their own, going to a card shop, buying some boxes of cards, and realizing that there might be some cool cards in there, but you're probably not going to get something for your personal collection unless you buy a whole case and you get lucky. Then you can do it. One other benefit, though, of opening wax that I have had in my hobby career, sometimes you open up a product and you pull a card, an insert or whatever it might be, and you love the looks of it, and that'll now trigger you and set you off on collecting that whole set that you might not have ever noticed if you didn't open up that box. That's happened to me a couple times where I pulled a card, I'm like, oh, that's beautiful. Let's look at the checklist. All right, decent checklist. Let's collect the whole set.
True. So Sylvester Boston asks a good question here. How do you feel about buying or selling on MySlabs, ComC, or Alt? How would you rank them in order?
Well, I can only speak about ComC. It's the only one that I've ever been on. I did download Alt just a couple days ago, but I was unable to verify my account because I don't have a zip code. I'm in Canada, so I guess it's not open to Canadians.
Oh, I don't think it's open to Canada.
Yeah.
I think I've heard that comment from a few people.
That must be it. MySlabs, listen, I've never used it, but I like the guys there. I know the guys there, and great group of people. Really, really like the people behind MySlabs. I like the low fees, and apparently it's a great platform. Unfortunately, I don't have any firsthand experience other than knowing the people, so I can't speak to it. I can speak better to ComC. I've been a regular ComC user since 2013. And I love it. I've had great success on there. I just in Edmonton submitted them 1,504 cards, and they're starting to show up, the ones that I paid for premium service on. and I've been selling cards regularly since they started loading up a couple days ago. So, and I buy cards on there as well. I've been an active ComC user for almost 10 years.
Well, I can say on my end, I'll pull this question back up for people that just got here with Sylvester. I've used Alt to check comps. I haven't done anything else on Alt. On ComC, I use them as a resource on pricing and cards and seeing what's raw, what's not. On my subs, I've actually purchased a card. It was a good experience. Purchased a card. There was a communication process, which I love from beginning to end. I knew when the card was coming. I got a tracking number. I was able to communicate with the seller through the app itself, just like I would with eBay. The card arrived on time. I had a very good experience.
That's awesome. That's what you want, right? And it's nice that you can share that and spread the good word. So
yep, might be the future of something, because there are more and more cards coming on my slabs almost every day, and I probably check it once a week, and I see new stuff all the time.
Yeah, I know ComC they went through some issues there about a year ago with shipping, and they were just overloaded, just like PSA was.
Yeah.
And I had Tim Getch, who's the CEO and founder, on my show a couple times to give updates. And they've really dug themselves out of a hole there. They're doing a lot better. They've staffed up. They've added square footage, added technology, and so I'm a big fan of theirs. I always have been, and I felt bad when they were going through those tough times and they were getting some negative press, but they've turned it around. I've seen a lot of people who are upset with them now sharing the good story. It's nice when you see somebody who is regularly sharing the negativity, or I don't want to call it negativity, because these are they're based on true experiences. But when people share their negative experiences, their poor feedback on a company, when they're then willing to share the positive experiences later on, that's somebody who I'm willing to listen to.
Well, I can say that I've talked to several people in cars, and they're using ComC. They have good feedback. They remember when they were going through difficult times, and they're sitting in cars right now, just like yourself.
Yeah,
on a regular basis. So one question that's here is from Feed the Guys. Which grading company do you prefer? Which one do you use primarily? Is it PSA, Beckett, SGC?
Yeah, I've always preferred PSA. When I did my first PSA submission FD in Chicago at the Chicago National in 2008, I took my historical rookie card collection. I don't remember, 400 or 500 cards with me, and I submitted them all for $8 a card.
Remember those days?
Even for the valuable ones, yeah. And since that day, I've always wanted that uniformity, so I stuck with PSA for my vintage. And then when I started to get modern graded, I thought, well, I don't care that everybody is saying Beckett for modern, PSA for vintage. I wanted uniformity, so I submitted many of my modern cards to PSA as well. But I think Beckett did or does a better job on thick cards like RPAs and that kind of thing. That's an angle that I took. I also know that when it comes to Bowman Chrome baseball for prospecting, that segment of the hobby loves BGS. At least they did a few years ago. I haven't really kept up with what those guys are doing lately, but I think PSA won the war on modern as well as they already had it on vintage. I think they won it on modern now too. And for me, I'm a little down on all the grading companies right now because I'm just noticing too much inconsistency. So and the pricing model has changed, from $25 a card to 200 to 150 to 100 to 50. They've been more and more expensive. So I have a box of cards, I don't know, probably 400 cards I'd like to get graded. And I was waiting for PSA to go. I was waiting to go to the 2020 National. That's where I was going to dump them off there. And then that got canceled. Yeah, it got canceled. And then the price went up. And now I'm just not sure what I'm going to do with all these cards. I'm happy with them. The nice thing about a raw card is that you always have the option to get it graded and you haven't spent the money. You have a graded card, sure, you have the option to break it out, but now you've wasted that money. So I'm hanging tight right now on grading.
I got you. So now I know you're into baseball. I've been doing a lot of research on these prospects that are in baseball right now. Like modern day baseball is filled with a lot of people that have a lot of potential. I'm trying to understand how to know who is who in modern day baseball. What do you suggest?
FD, I don't know I don't know where you got it that I'm a big baseball guy. I'm not. I'm not. You must be confusing me. I'm not a big baseball guy. I can name off the only baseball players I can name off are those that I see other people talking about, or when I see
Mike
I can
Trout,
name
those
off.
people.
You know, I know Guerrero because he's plays for the Blue Jays, and I know Acuna and Soto and these guys,
There's
right?
a lot of names, man.
Of course, Trout and Bryce Harper. I'm familiar with these guys. And then Jason Dominguez, even though I don't think he plays yet, I'm aware of him because he had a card sell for $500,000. But
And now he's in the minor leagues, I think, batting 250.
Yeah, that's not very good, is it?
Not
I
good.
mean, I was into baseball back in the early 90s when the Blue Jays were winning back-to-back World Series. But since then, you know, I love the late 80s, the early 1990s. That was my era. Ken Griffey Jr., Frank Thomas. You know, I started to fade away from baseball in the mid 90s once Jeter came around. So, but
And then
Barry
everything that
Bonds, Mark
followed,
McGwire.
right? All the scandals and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, a lot of people fell out of baseball around that time.
Yeah, for sure.
The strikes and the scandals, I think, in the 90s.
Yeah, that did some damage. So it took a while for the hobby to recover, the baseball segment to recover.
Because I remember in 93, the Chicago White Sox had an excellent team. Excellent team. People thought, oh, man, the White Sox finally going to maybe get to the playoffs, go to the World Series. Had a strike. We'll never know what that team could have done. I think any South Side Chicagoan, this still comes up.
And what about the year that the year of the shortened season?
Yeah.
Was it a lockout and the Montreal Expos were top of the standings and they had their best shot at a World Series, and then the season got canceled, and then they moved to Washington later on. So
we both got that story. Have you been to a Washington Nationals game? Have you?
No.
I know you wouldn't do that, would you?
I mean, I would. I've been to Washington. I mean, I would, but I've never been to a Nationals game.
It's a nice stadium. It's just interesting though I went before they won the World Series. I went in 2011. It was interesting to walk into a stadium with really no history. Like there were banners of Mickey Mantle hanging up and other people hanging up. It was like weird.
Yeah, that would be. Yeah, it would be for a team that was kind of relocated. Yeah.
Walk me through some of those cards. I know you have some cards there with you.
You had said to me that you wanted to talk a little bit about some wins I've had and some losses as well in the hobby. So I use Card Ladder, and I have some of my cards in the collection feature on Card Ladder. And what that does is it tells you, if you input what you paid, it tells you what it's worth and what your unrealized profit would be. So when you asked me for some wins, I went into my Card Ladder and I sorted by profit, so I know where the highest profit would be in cards. And I pulled out a bunch of cards that fell in there. I pulled out this many, so I don't know if you want me to show them all, but I can show. I can show you kind of
as you like there. I think there's some stories there.
Yeah, there's definitely some stories here. So I'll start with the biggest one. The biggest one because it's the biggest profit, unrealized, of course, that I have on a card. So it's this guy right here. It's the Michael Jordan Jambalaya, which is it's a very big, very important card. It's a True Gem Plus 9.5. And so I bought this card in January of 2019 or 2020, like just before everything went crazy. And this card, since on Card Ladder, I think they have it valued at $119,000 right now.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's a low pop, very hard to get. So let's just talk through this. The borders of the card are extremely hard to grade. Surface borders extremely hard.
And centering too. Centering's tough on this one too. This has 10 corners and the other 10 corners because there are none. Mm-hmm. And 9.5 surface centering and edges. So it did really well. And I mean, so it's my biggest profit card, I guess you could say. I think I know what I paid. I paid $20,000 for it, and it's now worth $120,000. So
congrats, sir. That's a beautiful card, man.
Yeah, thanks. That's a big win. I have this Michael Jordan Platinum Portraits that also
nice card.
Did something similar to that.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a great story, FD. So remember I said earlier that, I've overpaid for cards before. So when I bought these two cards, I broke the record for price paid for both of these. Now,
Okay.
this one was a private deal, but I paid more than any public comp. And this one I bought on eBay for more than had ever been paid.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that worked out very well for me. But those were bought in 2019. This card this card here I bought in 2000. It was either 2007 or 8. Bought it very impulsively. I was just starting to get into the baseball Hall of Famers, and I'm a rookie card guy. This is the card, the Mickey Mantle, the 51 Bowman, the actual rookie, right?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
It's a PSA 6. So I bought this. I remember I was sitting at my dining room table on my laptop, and I see this card, and I just decided to bid on it, and I ended up buying it back in it was 7 or 8, I forget. I think I paid $6,000 for it, and now it's worth considerably more than that. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing: I knew nothing about the card when I bought it. I just knew it was his rookie card, and I knew that I wanted it. It looked nice and all that, but I didn't. It was so impulsive when I bought it. Like I literally came across the auction with 3 minutes left. That's how quickly I decided to buy it, that I didn't do any research. So after the auction was over, I looked over at my room and I go, "Oh my God." He goes, well, what'd you do? I go, "I just bought a Mickey Mantle rookie." He goes, "What'd you pay?" I go, $6,000. He goes, I said, and then I went and I looked at the comps, and the highest comp was like 4,500 or something like that at the time. So I kind of felt like, oh damn, like what did I do? I just wasted $1,500. I could have found one for cheaper. Well, I put it away, forgot about it, literally didn't think about it for 6 or 7 years. And I went and looked at it again, and I was like, oh, it's worth $15,000.
Oh yeah.
Very cool. And now it's worth like 4 times that. So again, I'm not sitting here telling people to spend, pay over market on things, but when it comes to really rare cards, you sometimes have no choice. Think about the Honus Wagner, the T206 Honus Wagner. Every single time that card has sold, it has set a new record.
Yes.
And nobody has lost money.
No. Great card. I mean, you got to think the athletes you just pulled out, legendary in their sport. That Mickey Mantle card is like a grail card. When you start talking about baseball cards and rookie cards, that card comes up. There's some other Mantle cards that come up. The Jordan Jambalaya, the other one. I mean, if you're doing research on Jordan, if you're in there, those 2 cards are going to come up. If you're going to buy them or not, you will come across those comps. You will see those cards.
For sure. 100%. I won't go through all these. I'll show you a couple more, though. I know you'll love this one. I mean, who doesn't love this card? But Wilt Chamberlain, one of my favorite cards. This is a PSA 7.5, which is really high grade for 61
very high grade.
And I bought this.
And you don't have a denotation, right? It's not off center. There's no marks on that card. It's a very clean card. Borders are great. Wonderful card.
Yeah, no qualifiers. It's a stunner of a card. And I bought this. I bought it way before the boom happened, the recent boom. So it's another card that I'm in really good on, and I love it. My friends outside the hobby, when they know what I'm into. They know I'm into sports cards in a serious way. And when they ask you what's it worth, everyone wants to know what's it worth, and you tell them, why don't you sell it? Why don't you sell it? There's so
I get
much
that
product.
question all the time.
Yeah, why don't you sell it? It's not for sale. I didn't buy it to sell it yet. I mean, eventually I'm going to sell it. When I'm 75, I'll sell it. But right now, it's not for sale. So that's why I'm not going to sell it. The fact that you have that several of us have cards worth a lot of money doesn't mean that we want to flip them. I mean, some people love to flip, but not me. So that's one of my favorites.
Another legendary athlete.
Here's another legendary athlete, but a different card. So I mentioned that I got into the 90s inserts, and that was in around 2017. And that really, I kind of got into it around the time that I discovered hobby content on YouTube with Cardboard Chronicles was my favorite, Josh Johnson with his interviews. Okay. And then when Nat Turner purchased the PMG Green Michael Jordan, which was in March of 2019, and actually the person he bought it from was on my show on Saturday, David Chow from Shanghai, just as a coincidence. Anyway, I started really getting to the basketball inserts, and at the National in 2019, the 2019 National, I purchased this card here, the PMG Red Shaquille O'Neal.
Wonderful. Jeremy Lee. Wonderful card, man.
Wonderful card, right? Yeah. And I bought this for, at the time was a lot of money. Like I thought, wow, it was the biggest card of the show for me. I love the card. I mean, it's like love. There's true love here, there's true love for cards. But it's a card that has shot up in value since I bought it. Now, listen, anyone who owns some of these wonderful cards, and if you bought them before really March of 2020, you're in good on them. So I'm in good on a lot of these cards, just like a lot of other people are. So yeah, there's some.
What on that Shaq card? What made you pick the Shaq card?
Oh, because I love Shaq.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
As far as basketball goes, there's 3 players that I guess 4 if you include Kobe, and I do have a love for Kobe, but Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, Ray Allen. I love Ray Allen, and I don't have any of his cards. I used to. I sold the one I had. It was a Z-Pete debut, and I just didn't love it.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to get a Ray Allen card back. But Shaq, MJ, Kobe. I mean, hard to go wrong with these guys. I have a few LeBron cards. I pulled out a LeBron card here too to, as a card that I would consider a win because it's this guy here. This is a great card too. This is the Essential Credentials.
Yes.
This is the one numbered out of 102 rookie year. And
acetate, hard to grade, scratches easily.
Yeah, I bought this FD like right in the nick of time. And so this card has done really well for me as well. A couple others, I've got again, the only reason that I can share these wins is because I've been in for a long time. It's not like I'm no genius. I just bought because I was collecting and I held. So, the same goes for this Bill Russell as a PSA 6. It's a beautiful 6.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I've learned a lot about you just by looking at these.
Well, here, check out this card. That's a PSA 9.
Oh, wonderful.
I paid $1,000 for this card at that national in 2008. I bought it for $1,000. So it's old label, of course, because I've had it since then.
Oh yeah.
But
I think to me, I'm taking away that making moves certain players at certain times in certain parts of the market when something may be more affordable to people than times when it's maybe more affordable to less people. That's how I'll describe price values. And that stuff, those kind of characteristics in cars, right, stand the test of time. If you're looking for something and it's rare and it's a player that if you walked away from this card today, you may not see that card for a while. Those are the cards that I just saw you show me.
100% FD. And it ties into another piece of advice I would give people going to a card show, which is, especially with how many people are in the hobby now and how tough it is to find great cards. When you go to a card show and you see a card, never mind a card show, you could find this card anywhere. You could find it at your LCS, you could find it on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook. It doesn't really matter. When you see a card that you really want and it's rare, you got to grab it. So if you go to a card show, don't think that you're going to do one tour, look at all the tables, write down what you want, where it is, and then go back and buy your favorite. It's going to be gone if it's a good card.
Especially not at a show like the National.
Any busy show, right? Yeah.
It's not happening. Yeah.
Not happening. It will be gone when you go back there. You have to pounce when you see the card you want.
And I say that because you have other people in that area with keen eyes as well. They're seeing something. They understand what the price is, where the trajectory is on the market of that car, and they're thinking. And they're ready to make a play on something.
There's more people out there that fit that description, FD, than ever before. Because of all the flippers that have come into the hobby. And I don't say that with any negative connotation. I just say the people who are coming in looking to buy a card and find a new home for it, relatively quickly with some margin. I mean, I do that too. I buy cards to sell as well, but I do draw. There is a pretty defined line for me between when I buy cards to sell and when I buy cards for my personal collection. So when you see it, you got to grab it, and you got to maybe pay more than you want to sometimes because you're not going to have another chance. Well, you may, but you may not.
I mean, all those things you broke out there are almost like a mini museum. I know you have more, but I just want people to understand that everyone can tell their story. Jeremy's been collecting for a while now. He understands the market. He has relationships. As people start, Start working on those things. Say hello to people. Talk to people. Those foundational things that you do will have you probably somewhere else in your journey later on, because we're all learning something. I went to a show this weekend and learned some stuff about some cards that I did not know. So we're all learning. You collect all that information, and before you know it, you're pulling out some stuff. You're like, wow, man, I can't believe that.
Yeah, that's good advice. And I'll just to add on to that, FD, is listen, I do consider myself an experienced hobby veteran. I have been in it my whole life, and and if I can pay myself a compliment, I'm older than I look. So I've been around a while, and I'm still learning. Like, I'm still finding things that are new to me that are not new to others, but they're new to me. And that's that, I've seen people, make statements on Instagram or wherever recently saying, like, I'm getting bored of the hobby. There's no innovation. There's nothing new. It's the same prism year after year, the same parallels. My response is, you just got to take the blinders off. You have to be a little bit more open-minded and just like expand your horizons. Look around. I don't care what sport if you only collect football, there are cards out there that you just don't know about. And maybe you want to start collecting rock and roll cards or Hollywood cards or Marvel cards or whatever. There is so much out there. Instagram's a great place, I find, to get exposed to just outside of your comfort zone or your what you really see. So yeah, it's there's always something to learn, always new cards to discover. And that's really the beauty of even 40 years in the hobby myself, and I'm still finding new things to collect, which is awesome.
Now you got to think, you just pulled out 60 years worth of cards right there a few minutes ago. There's been a lot of changes in cards, right? Even you're looking at that Bill Russell and you're looking at that Wilt, there are some things that you want to know about the pixelation of the picture, and some of them have dots in certain areas, right? But the card is beautiful. Then you move over to a LeBron acetate card. That's a material that nobody was making cards like that in the 60s and in the 70s. Then you move over to PMGs. Jeremy, you remember when those cards were well undervalued. I mean, there's always something. I agree with you when people say that they're bored. There's just so much out there. Look around at something new. Maybe challenge yourself to learn a different sport or a different aspect of a sport. I know some people that in basketball only collect centers, only collect point guards, only collect shooting guards. Michael Jordan may be a great player. Some people have fabulous collections, don't have any Michael Jordan in it.
Well, that's fine, yeah.
Yeah, and that's great. If that's what you want. It is beautiful. My last thing for you is, do you have anything you want to say to the group before you leave? I want to respect your time. I know how much time we have here.
Well, you did also ask me about some of my big losses.
There you go. Let's balance this out, right?
Yeah. Let me share some cards that I sold too early. I don't think I've really bought. Listen, I bought a couple cards here and there. I always say to myself, and if people ask me, listen, don't buy this year's rookie crop the year they come out. You're always going to pay a lot of money for them, and they may not pan out. Wait a year, wait 2 years. Let them establish themselves. Let them get their feet under them. Let's make sure that they're going to have a great career, not get hurt, that kind of thing. I always think back to Brian Taylor for the New York Yankees way back. Jason Dominguez might be following in his footsteps.
Remember, Brian Taylor everybody's talking about this guy.
It was huge. He was huge back in 1990, 91 when he signed that deal with the Yankees, and he never played. He was the hot card back then. So, I always say just kind of be patient, wait a bit. That said, sometimes I do go against my own advice. I bought I bought a Ja Morant card when I was at Burbank. When you reached out to me there, when I was in LA for a very short time back in March, I bought a Ja Morant card there. I'm okay with that right now, but I'm just saying, I haven't bought a lot of cards that have gone down in value. It's been hard to do that, right? Especially with the last couple of years that we just had. But I certainly sold some cards too early. And I went and I looked in my, I submitted cards to PWCC. I used to give them cards at the National to sell for me. And I went and looked at some of the history. Okay. And I've got a couple. I don't know if I should share my screen, or I can just, because I don't have anything to show you, but I can just I'm looking at on my other monitor. I can tell you what they were, or if you want me to, I can share my screen.
Oh,
It's
share
up
your
to you.
screen, sir.
All right, sure thing. So let me just do that really quick. So this one right here, FD, if you can pull it up.
Yeah.
So that card there, I sold that. Look at that, September 20th, 2015. I sold it for $1,725. That card today is $20,000 bucks. So sold that one too early. This Sidney Crosby Future Watch autograph. It's a BGS 1010. I sold it for $1,800. Let me put it to you this way: his PSA 10 today sells for $15,000 or so. A BGS 10 with a 10 would probably sell today for, listen, I don't know exactly. I didn't look it up, but $25,000 maybe a bit more. So a lot of money left on the table right there. Here's a couple more. Here's a Crosby. Look at this, his Young Gun BGS 9.5. I sold it for $300. It's laughable. $325. This is, I don't know, it's a $4,000 card right now. This one here, this is a big loser for me. $205. This card is probably in $10,000-$15,000 right now. So
I'm noting the names too of the quality of the players that you have here.
These are the best. These two guys are the best of the best from 2005 to the present, and I know that will make Tom Bullard happy to hear me say, because I know I do put Crosby ahead of Ovechkin, just myself, and my collection would reflect that. I have many more Crosby cards than Ovechkins, but I love Ovechkin too. I really do. But in any event, these two guys are the face of the hobby from 2005, really until Connor McDavid came in 2015. And I sold these too early. Definitely sold these two too early. So it hurts to look at them a little bit.
Yes.
This card here would now sell for $4,000. I got $310 for it. This card would probably sell for, this is Joe Sakic, Eric Lindros. That one I sold too early also. Not sure what that would go for today, but here we go. Alex Ovechkin limited logos. These go for about $4,000 now. I got $127 for it. And then this guy here. This would probably sell for $6,000 today.
Yeah, that's a wonderful card, Lemieux. On-card auto too, right? Yeah. Wonderful.
On-card auto, 2 dual patch, both 3 colors, only 6 copies made. I got $317. I would buy this back for $3,000 today. Yeah. So, yeah, pretty crazy stuff there. On I'm not sure what's next, so I don't want to flip to the next picture in case.
Oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. But the moral of the story is that you had quality cards that you were moving early.
Yeah, exactly. So so when you asked me, what are some of your wins, what are some of your losses, I don't know that I have sold cards at a loss, and I don't like doing it, but I've done it, and lately I am becoming more and more willing to sell a card for a loss. Thank you, Triple V. That's really nice.
Yep.
I'm more willing now, FD, to sell a card for a loss, because I'd rather take that money and put it into a new card that I can either make money on or put into my personal collection. Listen, I'm a collector through and through. I become an investor of consequence because my cards have gone up in value so much. But I also buy cards just to sell, and I buy collections. I'll buy big collections, like for 5 figures and up, because usually when you're buying a collection, you're going to get a good deal because someone wants to move out of the cards. They want to just get it done. They don't want to do the work. And I travel to card shows, and I love doing that. So I'm willing to take them off their hands. And but you really, I started doing card shows, buying and selling, just to feed my hobby habit, and that's still what I'm doing. I buy and sell, and whatever I make goes right back into the collection.
Jeremy, I've learned a lot about you today, sir, from how you started collecting to some of the great cards that you have in your collection. I always knew that you have a keen eye for what you're looking for, just by how you describe certain things. And it's just good to see what you have put together over time, because it's impressive,
Thanks, man. Thank you. Appreciate that.
And I appreciate your time here. There are 2 things that I will do. We'll have you back on again, and I can't wait to see you in person at a show or something in the future.
Again, I saw you in Vegas, and I'll be in Atlantic City for the National at the end of July, so I'm sure I'll see you there.
Okay. Are you making your way out to Burbank in August?
For the show that they're putting on?
Yeah.
Maybe. It's
Okay.
a maybe for now. I just earlier today booked a trip to Switzerland of all places to go to my cousin's wedding. So
Yeah,
I'm
you
doing that.
told me about a wedding before. I remember this. Yes.
Yeah, I'm doing that. I'm doing that in the middle of August for my cousin's wedding, and I've never been there before, so that'll be pretty cool. And then so there's the national at the end of July. Then I have that, and then maybe at the end of August I'll make my way to Burbank's card show. That would be a lot of fun. I'd love to come down and check out the LA scene more so than just
I think it'd be real
shop.
nice. Oh,
Yeah,
and even if, because I understand things happen, family is very important. Even if I don't see you then, we'll see each other in the future.
Yeah, man, for sure, for sure. I appreciate you. I appreciate you having me on. It's a lot of fun. I love your show, what you're doing. Keep up the great work, FD. You've got a great chat and audience. So kudos to them.
Yes.
And for those names that I recognize, several of the names here in the chat. Tom Bullard, Pepino Man, what's going on? Albert Jones, of course. Triple V. Recognize a bunch of these guys. So it's great to see you all here.
And I want to take this time to thank the people that's in the comments, because we always get good comments, good conversation, either here or amongst the people that are there. And it's a genuine crowd. They're talking about real stuff in there. So I just want to give them a shout out.
Yeah, as do I, for sure. Yeah.
Well, Jeremy, thank you very much for your time, sir. Appreciate you.
Yeah, same here, FD. Thanks for having me. We'll see. I look forward to seeing you again. And is your son going to be with you in Atlantic City again?
My son's going to be with me at Burbank. I can tell you
Okay.
that. He'll definitely be there. We're getting him ready for a larger show to take him around, show him a lot of people. He's looking forward to that. He's already talking about Burbank.
Awesome. All right, man. Well, hey, great to see you. Thanks again. See
Thank
you
you, brother.
chat. All right.
You have a good one.
Thanks, FD. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.